Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to do a deck review, flip through, and pull at the end. You'll get to see a few different styles of shuffling, okay? I do have average size hands. I also have carpal and cubital tunnel syndrome. So you'll also get a chance to see if you have a similar affliction, if these cards might be easier for you to work with. I will actually be commenting as I work with them since I've never touched them before, okay? So this deck we're doing is Aether Creatures Oracle cards by Teal Swan, and it comes in a very thick box, okay? And there's the back side of the box. 77 cards and a 352-page guidebook. Wow. All right, here we go. Cracking her open. Wow. That is a thick book. All right. And it's cover to cover with info. Okay. Lots of spreads. Good. Everything's numbered. Okay, let's get to... We live in a multidimensional universe. These dimensions are like universes. Indeed, some contain other universes within them. While some contain all the potential universes that could possibly exist, branching off from the same initial conditions. However, although these different dimensions exist, most people are only able to perceive a limited number of them. In fact, many scientists would say that human beings are limited to perceiving only 3, not including the perception of time, which some people consider to be a dimension in and of itself. Human consciousness, therefore, is usually restricted when it comes to perceiving anything that exists outside of these 3 dimensions of human perception. To grasp the different dimensions is unfathomably complex for the human mind. However, what is important to realize is that life is not limited to the dimension of physicality here on Earth. There are life forms that exist in other dimensions. In fact, there are so many of them that they vastly outnumber the biodiversity found in the physical dimension of Earth. And this deck will go through it. Wow. So it'll talk about the ether creatures and the medicine of it. All right, and then about the artist, ways to use the deck. Some intentions, okay, spreads. Looks like quite a few spreads, love it. Different ways to try it out for yourself or create your own. And then it starts with all the creature cards. And a lot of text too. In reverse and upright. I like that. Okay. All right. All right. Let's go through the cards. Chunky chunk. Put our box back together. And of course it's got the info on the side too. Okay. We'll leave it like that. Wow, it's a really thick deck. But they're oracle size. Standard. Wow. Okay. I'm just noticing the thickness of it. It's definitely a book itself. You may want to split it up half and half if you have a hard time holding, but I do notice that the cards themselves are extremely flexible. So it may actually be easier to work with than once thought. But all the back sides look like that. They do fan out okay. So we'll go through each one individually for you. Quickly flip through. And they are all numbered, okay? Am I close enough for you to see it? That's better. Of course, Chupacabra. It's still a little sticky together, but as we go through them, I unstick them. And that's just from the manufacturing process. It means they packaged the deck warm. You can hear it, can't you? And sticky. Just making sure. Make sure I don't miss any because they're sticking together. Let's see. All right. Let me get the next section. Oh, and sticky them. They do relatively, when they're not sticky together, all right, do pretty well. I'll try to get through this quickly, guys. It is a thick deck. We're about halfway there. Yeesh. I love these images, these drawings. I'll unstick the next batch. I'll just go ahead and do the rest since I can hold that. Unstick. And that one didn't get unstick. There we go. There we go. Alright, that should be a lot more easier to work with now. And we won't miss any. All right, just 10 more to go. last one. All right, guys. Let's see how it shuffles, shall we? Bear with, let's see. I'm going to start with the fan out. We'll see how that works. Once it gets less sticky, it'll probably fan out pretty easily, actually. That was pretty simple for a thick deck. All right, let's split it. Not too shabby. Let's do a side shuffle. I don't think I'm going to be able to do a bridge shuffle, guys. It's just way too thick. It'll hurt my hands. But what you could probably do, and I've seen this done before, and just not often, there hasn't been a need for it, you could split the deck in half and shuffle it that way. So let's see how that does. Not too bad. It did have a little stiffness at first, but that's because they're not used to moving in that direction, right? That was a little easier. So with work, it'll warm up the deck, okay? That was better. This is a slightly thinner stack. You might want to work with it in thirds if you have trouble, okay? Alright, let's see how it side shuffles. Not too bad, even for its size, its thickness. Alright. We'll do one more. And then we'll get a pull for you guys. Wow, that's interesting. Definitely a much larger deck than I'm used to. Let's get one, please. Let's see what our message is. Ooh, nice. Get it as close as possible. We have Yaroni, number 13. Also breaks down to a 4. That might be an identifier for someone. So that's what it could be about. Your life path number, soul urge number, the month of April might be an identifier, okay? Aries, Taurus as identifiers. 4th house. Okay, you get the idea. All right, let's see. Okay, so it's this one. And it did come up in the upright, but I'll read the reverse as well in case it might be applicable, okay? The medicine for this card is symbiosis. Why can't I speak? Interconnectedness, interdependence, relationship, feeling-based communication. The Yaroni is a non-earth-based humanoid being. Like humans, it is a tribal species. The Yaroni inhabit moist areas similar to wetlands and marshes. When it is born, its skin is shiny, obsidian black. However, at birth, the child is immediately rubbed with the spores of a reed-like multicellular protist, which looks like a plant, called Kanu, that is native to their environment. The Kanu grows in gametophytes, which braid themselves into the cellular structure of every part of the Yaroni. From the moment a Yaroni is born, it becomes a symbiotic organism. The Kani is, from that day forward, inseparable from the Yaroni, and vice versa. Having grown into every cell of the Yaroni, the protist Kani begins to cover its skin, and so the adult Yaroni's skin looks like it's quite literally made of tough vegetation. Kanu is neither plant nor animal. Its interconnected root system, in fact, creates an underground communication system that allows all but a few life forms in its environment to send signals and communicate with one another at a level that is not perceived by human senses. When the Kanu braids with the Yaroni, that Yaroni is immediately connected to and is a part of this interconnected web of life, along with all the information being communicated from all other life forms that are part of it. Because of this, the Yaroni survived and are an intensely interconnected element of the environment in which they live. It is as if the ecosystem itself uses the Yaroni to do its bidding. The Yaroni are foragers and farmers. It may be tempting when you are watching the Yaroni farm Kanu to think that they are the ones in charge and in control of the Kanu, but the story is more complicated than that. The Kanu is also using the Yaroni to grow and propagate itself and exist in more suitable conditions than it would be able to create on its own, without the physical advantages that the Yaroni has. It is an intensely symbiotic relationship, a stunning example of interdependence. The Yaroni prefer to walk with their front limbs and use their hind limbs more like you would use your hands. Each limb has only 2 digits, the end of which have suction cup-like pads, which help the Yaroni climb and grip things. Kind of reminds me of one of those climbing plants, right? The Yaroni's very large brown eyes have a distinctive dark purple hue to them. Perhaps one of the most interesting things about the Yaroni is that it is a completely silent species. It makes no vocalization or noise whatsoever, even when it moves. Because the existence of the Yaroni is so inseparable from the life of the Chichenera, you would also serve to learn about them as well. It's card 14. I guess that's the next one. We won't read it though. In the situation that you're currently in. If the Yaroni has appeared to you right side up, and this is the part you could probably focus on, it has come to remind you of the beauty of interdependence. In the situation you are in, you run the risk of succumbing to the illusion of independence. You might be acting as if your life is a one-person show when it isn't. If you must drink to maintain your well-being, then you are dependent on the water. If someone else has to pump that water out of the ground for you, you are also dependent on them. In the situation you are in, you must not only recognize your dependence where it exists, but also invite that healthy interdependence and see the beauty in it. The Yaroni is leading you into a state of symbiosis. A lot of expert advice will tell you that resources should come from within and should never be dependent on what anyone else does or does not do. It will tell you that any form of dependency is a weakness or deficiency. Following this traditional model, one begins to build a picture of the world that is, for a lack of a better word, lonely. We begin to feel as if we are in this life alone, like it is inappropriate to ask others for what we want and need. We begin to believe that it is wrong to rely on other people, things, or to depend on them in any way. We're told that if we need other people, it is codependency. From a biological perspective, dependency is not a preference, it's a fact. Putting the fact that we depend on the earth and its resources for our survival aside, look at the biology of relationships. When you become attached to someone, the two of you now form one physiological unit. In truth, you have the relationship with all that is. It has now been proven that your partner is able to regulate your heart rate, breathing, and the level of hormones in your blood. Your partner's availability and proximity to you influences your stress response. So you may be around somebody that calms you down just by giving them a hug, right? Your sense of differentiation is reduced, even on a biological level. When you develop a relationship with someone, this reduction of differentiation is the reflection of the fact that when you are in a relationship, you come closer to understanding and experiencing oneness. There is also a psychological phenomenon called the dependency paradox, whereby you act more independent when you have the security of depending on someone else. Perhaps because burdens are lifted, even slightly, right? Okay. If you feel sure that you can rely on the person or people that you're attached to, you are able to take risks, be more creative, and pursue your goals. The Yaroni reminds us that independence is a hardened state that is closed and resistant to others. You are not alone, and the universe is trying to tell you that you can depend on others. It is also reminding you that other things depend on you. It's trying to lead you into an empowered symbiosis. It's also trying to tell you that there's more to life than just human being, right? All spirit is available to you, right? Like the water and food, ground that comes from the ground, right? When the Yaroni appears to you right side up, it may be important to admit that you need help and then seek out that help. In this situation, you may need to learn to ask others for what you need or want. So if that is the situation, do that, okay? And learn that other people and other things can meet your needs if you let them. How could you be more symbiotic in the situation you're currently in? How could healthy mutual dependence lead to greater results and deeper life satisfaction? You are being called away from a state of independent self-sufficiency. It is time to become much more interconnected with everyone and everything around you. And remember, there's a big difference between trusting oneself and distrusting others. Okay. And for those who feel the opposite of that right now, if the irony has appeared to you in reverse, you need to differentiate in a situation at hand. This situation calls for autonomy. You must define your unique feelings, thoughts, preferences, aversions, needs, desires, and personal truth. In the current situation, you may be losing touch with yourself. You are most likely becoming enmeshed in the situation in some way. This does not mean that you should push anything or anyone away. It simply means that you need to redefine you in this situation and act accordingly. Become clear on things like, how do I really feel? What do I really think? What do I really want? The Yaroni is not here to teach differentiation, and so he tends to turn his back when people struggle with being constantly trapped between their own and the other's thoughts, feelings, needs, and wishes. Between the personal truth of the other and their own personal truth, chances are high that this is the struggle that you're currently in. The Yaroni can also appear in reverse if you have slipped into powerless dependency. You need to know that you are not alone, and the universe is not telling you that you can't depend on others. This situation has nothing to do with whether you can or can't rely on other people to meet your needs. We live in an interdependent universe where our needs come to us through other people and things. But that does not mean that you are powerless. Right now, the universe is trying to help you heal your relationship with yourself by leading you toward a relationship with yourself that is good. To do this, it must lead you away from any pattern of avoiding yourself by powerlessly depending on others. At this time, you might be asked to develop a healthy sense of self, boundaries, and then learn how to have that self within the context of relationship, without resorting to either codependent or narcissistic strategies. You're looking to establish your own feelings, thoughts, needs, wants, and personal truths, while recognizing that other people also have thoughts, feelings, needs, wants, and personal truths. And your decisions affect them just like theirs affect you. The Yaroni in reverse asks you to establish a strong sense of self in this situation that you're in order to stand in a space of authenticity and autonomy. This is the only way to make the right choice for yourself and to do the right thing. Living an authentic and autonomous life is dependent upon living in alignment with your thoughts, feelings, preferences, wants, needs, and truths. The good news is the outcome that you've been looking for in this situation is on the other side of doing so. There you go, guys. I know that was a mouthful, right? So do that with what you will. If you like this deck, you may want to just break it up a little bit, okay? And definitely do the reversals. I mean, it's almost a page and a half of stuff for each card, okay? There you go. Have a good one. Bye.